Hi, this is Dr. Dan Ratner. Today I'm joined by Antonella for the second of our mind-body consultation series. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally. And finally, you can reserve your place in one of my seminars or purchase any of my mind-body guides, also known as the PDFs, at www.crushingdoubt.org. Check out our website for our latest promotions and opportunities. Without further ado, here is my conversation with Antonella and the Doubt Column. Welcome back, Antonella. It is good to see you again, and as always, I'm honored that you entrust me with your time and your story, and we're here to find out more about your column. So let's just briefly check in about how that first session felt for you. If there's anything that jumped out at you in particular, let me know, and if not, we'll dive right into the doubt column. And you did write me some things in the interim, so we're going to be utilizing some of what you wrote.
That's good. No, nothing really came up. It's just, it was good to have this, to be able to just let it out and really dig, because sometimes you think you're digging, but you're not, or maybe just not enough.
It's a really great point. It's hard when you're so close to it to know how much am I actually digging. Sometimes we end up digging in the same spaces that we're used to, but not in the others.
Yeah, exactly.
So I felt like we hit on some things that struck me as they seemed new for you. I will say the one thing that really, really jumped out at me most was the idea of confusion and how often you feel that about you, about other people, about the world, and just that's a pretty tough place to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we're going to do today actually goes right into confusion, because we're dealing with the doubt column today. And we can jump around to the different columns. I want you to feel free just asking about the system in general. Anything you don't understand or need to know about, you just let me know. Okay. But just to orient you again to what the doubt column is. Last time we worked with the emotions column, which was about the onset and uptick in symptoms. The doubt column is about those symptoms that are just kind of always there. Let me say it this way. They're either always there or they are really consistently there.
Yeah.
Maybe they come and go a little bit, but they're really there a lot of the time and kind of in the same ways. And this is a hallmark of my work. People come to me for those things especially. So we're going to dive into some of that, but I did want to say the types of doubts that people deal with are general uncertainty, which is the definition of doubt. Mm-hmm. Any questions that you have, which anyone has thousands of questions when it comes down to really trying to understand this. Confusion. There's, ding, ding, ding. There's the word we hit on last week.
Yeah. And
also fear. And the very first thing you wrote in the thing that you wrote me this week, do you mind me reading it aloud?
Go right ahead.
Okay, you said, I'm finding that I'm just super scared all the time. So first of all, I'm sorry that you're feeling that way, and I'm excited to get you to a place where you can feel safer. And the columns will provide that. It could be that they provide it within this consultation or by the end of the consultation, or it could be that we get to the end of this consultation, then we build a plan of where we go from here. Okay. But we are going to help you feel that things make sense, not confused anymore, and that you don't have to be afraid. And ultimately, when we do power column work next week, although we may even do some today with some of the questions you brought up, that you don't have to feel that you're out of power, which is a really uncomfortable, bad feeling.
Mm-hmm. Don't like that one.
No, I can imagine you don't, and I don't either. I hate it. It's the worst.
Yeah.
So let's get right to it. I said this to you before we started, but you may not have even realized how great a job you did of articulating doubts. I read this and I was like, whoa. So I actually highlighted things that were doubts. And it is just a minefield of highlights. But that's a good thing. So I'm going to read through them, and we're going to get these doubts articulated. And you don't even have to write these down necessarily, because I have them here, and I even have them highlighted. I can send them back to you. But if we come up with new ones, things that aren't in here, or some kind of elaboration or a change to it, I want you to jot down the notes because we are building your mind-body map.
Okay.
And the doubt column, well, let me say this. The mind-body map it's a messy, rough draft. You know, there will be like, remember last week there were partial themes and like,
Right.
we didn't finish that column entirely.
No.
But we set you on a roadmap for how to do it because we taught you how to build a theme. And then, of course, you can rely on me if you need some help doing that. Well, today the job, when it comes to what you write in the column, is probably even messier. The doubt column is the messiest column because there's so much in it. So many things that you want to get addressed. So I'm going to give you some examples. When you said, I am finding that I'm just super scared all the time, there's actually a doubt underneath that. I mean, that's a fear feeling, so that's a doubt in and of itself. But underneath it is a question that I heard in the background, and I want you to tell me if I have this right. You're the one who knows. I heard the question, will I always be this scared? Or maybe even more definitively, won't I always be this scared? You know, what's going to stop me from always being this scared?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Okay. So I can either make a note of that on the notes I already have, or you can jot that down. What would be better for you?
Maybe you. That would be great.
As long as you don't mind me doing a little bit of typing in here. So
yeah.
I'm just going to put underneath it, will I ever not be scared? Yeah. Is that possible? Right? Now, that is a doubt we've just articulated a bit more fully. Did you see how I did it? I thought, well, what would it actually mean? What's the question underneath it? And when I asked that, we've got these very important questions. This is the interesting thing. We are going to need to actually answer that question, at least partially.
Okay.
I need to help, and I'm going to work on some of that today. I'm going to give you a rationale for why you could think that maybe you won't always be scared. But I have to give you one that's actually convincing to you or it doesn't do anything. Right?
Right.
So sit tight with that. We've articulated the doubts, and that's the part we're on right now.
Okay.
Once we've articulated the doubts, maybe in the last 15 to 20 minutes, we're going to start to actually practice answering doubts and making some progress reducing them. Okay? So first we're articulating them. Here's the next thing you said. You said when the symptoms are severe, I start to think that this is my life and there is no way I will get better. Okay. Now I'm gonna ask for your help here. If you can't do it, it's okay. I'll be able to do it for you. But is there a doubt? Is there a way that we can phrase that as a question or a more direct doubt? Or do you want me to just dive in with it until you get the hang of it? Either way.
Maybe you.
Okay, well, here's what I would say.
With that one.
You said when the symptoms are severe, I start to think that this is my life and there is no way I will get better. So the doubt is it even possible to get better? Mm-hmm. Right? I'm going to write that down. I hear other doubts underneath it. Is it possible that some people just don't get better? Now, you tell me if you don't have any of these doubts.
No, those are my doubts.
But I think you do.
Right, yeah. That's...
Okay. Is there anything... So, I talk about the 3 levels of doubts. One is it a mind-body symptom versus a structural thing? Okay. Another is, okay, even if it is a mind-body thing, how far does it go that I could get better? I hear a potential doubt on level 2 doubt in here. You know, is it possible that I can only get part way better? Does this sound right? Okay. I'm going to write that down. Is it possible that I can just get part way better? All right. Now, I have another doubt that could potentially be there. And again, please do tell me if you're like, nah, I'm pretty good with that one.
Yeah.
Though I have a hunch all of these are going to apply. You have a very powerful doubt column. And that's a tall order for you, but I'm here with you. We'll get it done. Okay. So I hear also in it this question. is it possible that there's something about my symptoms, my specific symptoms, that makes this harder? Is that in there anywhere?
Yes, it's something about because there's so many symptoms that makes this harder.
Okay, so I'm going to voice it that way. Is it possible that this is going to be too hard because there are so many symptoms? Right? Now, notice something. You just helped me articulate the doubt more specifically.
Right.
That's exactly what you want to be doing in the doubt column. Okay? So right now, we've just articulated, out of 2 sentences you said, we've articulated 7 doubts.
Yeah.
This is not abnormal. Really. Although, actually, maybe a doubt's coming up right now where you're like, uh-oh, do I have so many doubts that I'll never get this done? I mean, that's level 3 doubt, right?
That's exactly what I thought. I was just like, well, great. Now how many doubts am I going to have?
Okay. So I'm going to put that down. Do I have so many doubts that I can never get this done? The answer to that is absolutely no. I'm going to jump in and answer that a little bit. Okay. And the reason for that, the way I can give you a rationale that could make you feel like there's hope, is that no matter how many doubts you have, when you master one, the others get weaker. Doesn't matter how many you have. You could have thousands or you could have 3. If we weaken one, all of them are weakened because you suddenly are stronger here. So it's not even necessarily going to take longer, the fact that you have more.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Okay. So, and what I just did is a way of combating the doubt, which is the second half of the doubt column.
Okay. Yeah.
You articulate the doubts and then you combat them. I'm going to put the answer that I just put in there for you because it's a good example. So I'm going to say it doesn't matter how many doubts you have. When you conquer one, the rest weaken. Okay? That's a statement that you can hold on firm to that reduces that particular doubt.
Okay.
You then can come back at me and say, but what about this or what about that? That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Just keep coming at me with the doubt. That's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
Okay? Don't worry, you're doing great. All right, let's move on just to keep developing doubts, and then we'll get into how to combat them. Okay, so you brought up this thing about your mom and you are similar, and it bothers you. And you said you're not sure why, but it does. You also said, I also noticed that she has a lot of the same symptoms as I do. She claims nowhere near as bad as me, but we are very similar, and that bothers you even more. So here's the thing that I highlighted. It is like I am doomed to be like this since this is what my mother experiences. Okay. That's a very well articulated doubt, but I want to now let's put it in question form. It tends to be that whatever the doubt is, when you put it in question form, it's easier to then answer because, right. you're removing a step in the middle. So what's the question? I mean, we could even ask the question, am I doomed to be like this since this is what my mom experiences?
And that's what I question. Am I just...
Yes.
Is this my destiny?
Okay. Am I doomed in this way? Is this my destiny? Okay, I need to ask a question about it to continue articulating this. Why do you think that if your mother and you are similar, it means you're doomed?
Because my mom is not happy.
Okay, so I'm going to say my mom is not happy. And being like her, I must have the same destiny, basically. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's hard for me to resist not answering. Hard for me to resist answering these doubts because I hear them and I'm like, oh, I got something to say. So I'm going to go ahead and say it, okay? Your mom, maybe she is like you, but she could get this help too. So one way you could look at this is you're not doomed to be like your mom just because you're like her. You would be doomed to be like her if you keep the same set of information she has. Now, when I say that, what happens inside you?
Oh, obviously I get a little emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. It just feels like it's like too good to be true. Like that's just not possible. Like I just need to. I'm just gonna be like her, and that's just it. Because she's been like this for so long, and nothing's shifted or changed. And I know she's done nothing about it, but I just feel like then that's the where the confusion comes in. But why is it like this? Or I don't understand.
Okay, so you just articulated another doubt. Is it too good to be true that I could shift symptoms with new information? Now, I want you to notice something. I answered a doubt. The doubt was, am I doomed to be like my mom? And I then said a potential solution to that doubt is it's not about who she is. It's about the fact that she doesn't have the right information. And then you came back with a doubt from that. And this is exactly what you're supposed to do.
Okay.
You said, is it too good to be true that I could shift symptoms with new information? So we got to, I would call that like this is confusing because I talk about 3 levels of doubt, but that's the second level of doubt, from the primary doubt. It's a secondary doubt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As we answer that and then we keep drilling down, that's when we start to get real answers. So I'm going to go ahead and answer that just to keep going with the exercise because I want to show you how this is done because then you'll be able to do it with any of them. Okay. So now you have the question, is it too good to be true that I could shift symptoms with new information? Okay. I'm going to ask you a question in response to that as we explore this. Why would it be too good to be true? Are you saying that you don't believe that there are good enough things like that in the world? Or are you saying it's too easy? Or are you saying what if the information's not quite as good as you think it is, Dan? Something like that.
Sometimes the thought of it being like too easy, like what it's simple because it's simple. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. But then I start to think, well, then what makes, like, why would this work for me? Or why will, I don't know. It sounds like this like doom and gloom, but it's like, do I deserve it? Or does, like, my mom suffered all these years. So it's just, that's how it has to be for me. I don't know.
Okay. No, this is important. So, I'm going to put that down as another doubt. My mom suffered all of these years. So let's get this fully articulated. So what? That means so you have to also, or
it's like inevitable.
Okay, so it's inevitable. Okay, well, we'll challenge that. Let me ask a question, though. If you do conquer this, and then you look back at your mom who didn't, would that be hard to see? Would that be upsetting?
Yeah.
Okay. So, to me, that's part of the answer to this doubt. If we can explain why you have the doubt and what does it mean. This is funny because I said we were going to articulate doubts and then answer them, but I just couldn't resist. So what we're saying here is there's a reason you have this thought. My mom suffered all of these years, so it's inevitable. Now I'm going to put down the reason you think this, and you're going to push back at me if you need to. But I think the reason you think this is, if I get better, it will be, would you say heartbreaking that she didn't? Or I don't know what, upsetting? I don't know.
Yeah. Heartbreaking. Like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to take it a step further. If you get better and you feel that it's heartbreaking that she didn't so far, are you also scared that she'll find out that you got better, you'll bring this to her, and she still won't do it?
She won't.
Okay. So what does that mean for you?
Honestly, sometimes because I've articulated this to her many times, not
Yep.
in like in too much detail, but like the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it, she doesn't think I'm crazy. I know that. She just thinks it's just same thing. Like this is just too good to be true. And she's like, you're hard-headed and you don't settle, and that's how you are, and so that's why you'll get what you want because you work hard towards things. And for her, she's like, well, I'm old and um this is too much work for me. Like, so
Yep. So what I've identified though is the reason you're having this doubt is because there's a complicated emotional experience, but it actually isn't logical. I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying this is good news. It's not logical that just because you'd be upset about it means you can't do it. You can have both at the same time. You can do it and it can be upsetting. It does not have to, right? So now I'm going to get to the next thing, the next doubt that you articulated, which is essentially, why would this work for me? Now, there's a particular thing I want to highlight here. I don't know if you got to see the video or hear the video or hear the audio that I did on A and B questions. Does this sound at all familiar to you?
no,
Okay, let me.
maybe, but
It's very recent, so if you didn't see it,
okay.
it makes
So then no.
perfect sense. Would be fine even if it wasn't recent. But what I've discovered is that I tell people, ask your questions. That's how we get answers, right? But I've had certain people say to me, well, I'm asking questions, but I'm not getting anywhere. And I started to look at that, and what I found is that there are two types of questions that people ask. Now, I've decided to call them A questions and B questions. I don't know, the letter I chose instead of numbers. But A questions are ones that are designed to try to get you new information.
Okay.
They are motivated by the person who wants to heal and is like, okay, why this? They come from curiosity and real interest in getting better. Then, though, there are B questions. And B questions, without us even realizing it, don't come from who we are and what we want. They come from our doubts and what we fear.
Okay.
So why would this work for me? I would identify that as a B question. I'm not saying it critically. I'm just noting it. Because what we want to do is we want to shift B questions to A questions. The A questions are going to be more useful. The B questions tend to inspire panic and send you down a rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
So if you say, why would this work for me? Nothing has worked for me before.
Right.
Didn't work for my mom. Suddenly, you're off into all these B questions, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to turn this B question into an A question.
Okay.
And the way we do it is to bring it back to science and logic all the time. So when you say, why would this work for me? I have a question for you. This is how to turn a B question into an A question. Why did it work for me? Because it did.
Mm-hmm.
So why did it work for me, but it wouldn't work for you? That's a legitimate question. I don't know if you have an answer to it, of course, but let's see what comes up.
Yeah, the same thing always comes up. It's because I feel like I'm just too complex. Everything is just too complex.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So your answer, and I'm going to put this in doubt form. Maybe I am too complex for this to work. Now, that is, this is still coming from doubt and fear, but that's okay. We're following the questions. We're following the questions, and we're getting information from it, right? You asked, why would this work for me? Even though that was a B question, we got information by me trying to change it into an A question.
Right.
But you came back and you said, maybe I'm too complex for this work. That's still, for this to work. That's still fear-driven. That doesn't mean it's bad. It just means, okay, let's try to turn this from fear into an A question, something that can get us more information. So I'm going to ask another question. We're going to keep drilling down.
Okay.
You said, maybe I am too complex for this to work. Does that mean, because it worked for me, that I'm not that complex? And I won't take that as an insult, but I'm just interested in that. How do you view that?
That's funny. I didn't even think about it that way.
Right. Well, this is part of how I keep applying A questions, which are very science and logic.
Yeah.
They don't give in to fear. They don't get all freaked out. They don't go down rabbit holes. They just stay focused on logic.
Yeah.
So my logic was, well, if you're too complex to make this work, then either I'm not that complex,
Right.
or there's a total, misnaming of the problem here.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it can't. Does that help you see that this can't be about complexity? Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Like I said, I didn't even think about it that way.
Oh, I wouldn't expect you to, but
Right.
this is where my staying on logic really helps. And you're eventually going to learn to do this too.
Okay.
You're learning to already.
Okay.
This is a big step forward to be able to see what we just did. Now let me ask you a question. Do you still think, now that I've said that, do you still think you're too complex for this to work?
There's still that, I guess, that doubt.
That's okay. So, all right, then we need to dig deeper on it.
Okay.
Because now I'm wondering, is there some way that you think you're complex that I'm not? Or that other people who got better from it are not?
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like because of my personality, or even because I don't know if it's my stubbornness, or I think sometimes that's what I feel like is contributing to the complexity, or why I feel like it'll,
Okay.
not let me move forward.
Okay, so let me just highlight something that just happened here. As I kept pushing on this with logic, we keep getting more information. Now it's not about just you're too complex. Now it's specific. Now it's my personality will hold me back. Maybe it's my stubbornness, right? So we're getting deeper and deeper and more and more close to the source. So now I'm going to ask you another question designed to keep moving it towards A questions. Because again, I'm not saying this as bad news. It's just when you have lots of B questions, it means there's a lot of fear. And we got to work to get it into the logical sphere. So let's say that you're saying you're worried that stubbornness will hold you back, right? Why would stubbornness hold you back? What would it do? How would it operate?
I don't know how to put it into words, but I just feel like, I don't know if it's like set in my ways, or that I'm trying to say, like for example, I'm just going to go back to the body image, right? Like, yes. I can't accept it, so I keep trying to fight it. I feel like something like that, or like even the pain, even though, like I try to fight it, even though I can't. So it's like I'm stubborn. I just want to keep fighting these things.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But you've just articulated two doubts, and I want to say what they are. You ready? One is, I'm too stubborn to change. Or if phrased in question form, am I too stubborn to change?
Right.
Another is, and I'm talking about the body image. I'll just put in parentheses, body image. I'm being asked to accept something horrible. That's what I heard in what you were saying. That one of the reasons you feel like this could not be okay is that you feel like you are caught between two different decisions. I can accept it and stop fighting it and then get better, or I can not accept it and then I'm stuck with the symptoms. I'm not saying that's right, but those are the two poles that you're seeing. Right?
Yeah.
Well, now I'm understanding why you haven't moved. Right? Because between those two, you have horrible choices. The good news is those are not your only choices.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So what I need to do now to help you resolve the doubt is to bring you new information.
Okay.
How can you have another choice? So here is what I would say is the model of what we want you to choose. You do not have to accept it. You can work at it any way you want.
Okay.
And that's important. You're not stuck accepting this. You do not need to give up the body image you want in order to be fine from your symptoms. That's a fallacy of an idea, and I'm just telling you from a mind-body perspective, it's not required.
Okay.
It's like sometimes people say to me, well, I'm a perfectionist, and they say that perfectionism can lead to pain, so now I have to not be a perfectionist, but I can't do that.
Right.
Right? It's a pretty similar thing. So I say to people, no, you don't have to stop being a perfectionist.
Okay.
What you have to stop doing is being a perfectionist in the way that leads to symptoms.
Okay.
There's a very big and important distinction there. Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Okay. So you can want the same body image and even go after it.
Okay.
And you can even get it. I'm not saying that you need to, but you can have it if you want. And that is not going to lead to symptoms. Here's why. Symptoms are all about if you have the right understanding. They are not about whether you feel the right thing. It's about whether you understand them. Okay. So you could have like the perfect body that you always wanted and still feel horrible.
Right. Right. Yep.
And what that tells us is that you can get to a place where you can feel good. I'm not going to say no matter what the body image, because for you that is important, right? So I have a different plan for you. The plan is, let's go after the body image you actually want.
Okay.
But also, let's not have it tied to the symptoms. Let's not have you worry that that's tied to the symptoms. Now I'm going to have to show you how to get free of that, and I want to give you a little sense of that, okay?
Okay.
This is something that it's a doubt column problem, but it's level 3 doubt. It's about me, who you are, not me, you. When we're dealing with level 3 doubt, whether it's my personality will hold me back because I'm stubborn, or I'm being asked to accept something horrible, the action steps we're going to take to resolve these doubts happen actually in the power column. Now, I hope this is not too confusing. This is the one area where we start in one column and we end in another.
Okay.
It's still important that we started in the doubt column because we wouldn't have gotten this information without starting there. But now what we've gotten to is we need to get to a place, and we'll get to this more next week. What does that actually look like with the power column? Where you can say to yourself, I understand why, for example, body image is so important to me. And I understand what it is that I need. And I understand why I have been stubborn. I don't mean that as a criticism. I'm just mirroring your words.
Mm-hmm.
And look, it mirrors back to what we talked about last time. You won't be confused about you anymore. So this is where the power column becomes huge. And we'll get to it more next week. But when we nail what the power column is all about, you will start to have a way forward that's going to cut through all these doubts. And if we can just get rid of one, as I said, it starts to build. They start to all crumble. Now, let me pause for a sec and ask, how's this going, dealing with doubts? Do you see what we're doing? Do you see that we're bringing them out? We're drilling down. We're getting more and more specific. We're bringing in logic.
Yeah.
We're turning B questions into A questions.
That's huge. That's like a big thing.
Yes. If you can do this with all of your fears and all of your doubts and all of your confusion and all of your questions, if you can do this as a practice, something that you do all the time, this doubt column is going to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink. And every time you nail one, it helps. So I'm going to jump back to one that we might have nailed partially today. You had this
Okay.
question, why would this work for me? And I said, well, why would it work for me but not you? Then you got into, well, maybe I'm too complex. But we can deal with the complex answer, even though that went down to some specific things too. Do you actually feel that it makes logical sense that it would work for me but not you?
No.
Okay. But that's a start. See, that one doubt, can this work for me? It doesn't hold a lot of merit anymore. You can see now how, I mean this is a good thing. You can see now how silly it is.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks things like this. But when we take fear and we put it off to the side and we look at it scientifically and logically, we almost start to laugh at our own doubts.
Yeah.
You know? That's what happened for me. You know, why wouldn't it work for me? Look, it even happened for me, not about symptoms. When I was in high school, I had a good friend who played guitar, and I thought, oh, I wish I was the kind of person who played guitar. And suddenly it occurred to me, I was like, what? What's the kind of person who plays guitar?
Right.
So I learned to play guitar. I've now been playing guitar for, 25 years. So it's the same thing with this. You're going to need my help to believe in this, and you're going to need lots of answers, and you're going to need lots of logical solutions like I've been bringing in.
Yeah.
So let me jump back now to the body image thing. One of the things that I need to help you with the logic of, I'm going to say we need to tackle the logic of the idea that wanting the body you want, would you say would lead to symptoms? Is that what you're worried about? What's the concern?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I can tell you is wanting something doesn't lead to symptoms. Never.
Yeah. That's exactly what I feel. It's like wanting, my healthy body in general, even the body image, the healthy body, everything is going to lead to symptoms because it's like a want, and I shouldn't want or something. Is that
okay?
Yeah.
Yes,
No?
but let me flip it over to the power column for a sec, even though we're not there yet. In the power column, what we want to do is help you feel some excitement and optimism that not only is it okay to want what you want, even more, it's okay to get what you want.
Yeah.
So do you think there's some shame in wanting that? I don't think there should be, but do you think there is?
I just feel like it feels like I don't know if I would say shame, maybe.
What's the word?
Like I don't deserve to have what I want.
Aha. I don't deserve. This is a doubt. This is a level 3 doubt. I don't deserve to have what I want. So here again is a level 3 doubt. Something's wrong with me. I don't deserve it. And the way we're going to resolve it ultimately is the power column. Now I understand the power column might be a little nebulous to you because we haven't done it specifically, me and you, but you have seen this, so it's not like you don't have some idea of where it's going. Ultimately, in the power column, we're going to get you to come out of the power column, whether at the end of this consultation or soon after, hopefully, thinking, of course I deserve to have what I want. And not only do I deserve to have what I want, but I'm going to go after it with, the ferociousness of a dog, hanging on to some bone that they want. We have to help you feel you deserve it. To do that, we have to reinterpret your understanding of you. And that happens in the power column. That's going to be with the core narrative next time. Does that make sense just in terms of logically where we're headed? Good. Okay, let's go back. Let's keep going through these doubts you articulated.
Okay.
And I want to acknowledge, just like in the emotions column, there are going to be parts we don't get to.
Okay.
It is about learning to use the column, learning to use the system, seeing how it's done. Okay? You said, I fear my body will never work again the way I want it to. I am afraid that I won't be able to be active again like I used to. I have this fear that I will always have to avoid every toxin. Actually, I'm going to wait on that because that's a separate doubt. Let's go with, I'm afraid that I won't be able to be active again like I used to, or use my body the way that it won't work the way it used to. Okay, now I'm going to use me again just as an example, just because I am someone who has recovered from this. My body works better than it did, certainly when I was 28, when the pain developed. But there are ways in which my body works better than when I was like 22, and I am 46 years old. So that's a pretty big slap in the face to the idea that aging just like gets in the way. I mean, I play in a full court basketball game, which I'm playing in tonight. And when I go to play, people ask me how old I am. I tell them and they're like, what? Because I don't move like a 46-year-old. Because I'm not one. Not here.
Right.
And then my body isn't either. Like, I don't know how old I am, but I'm in my late 20s probably, or early 30s. So what I want to help you see is that is always going to be a construct of the mind. I'm going to have to convince you of this. I don't expect you to just believe it.
Okay.
But let's start with, what did my words inspire in you? It could have made you feel like, that sounds beautiful, but it's garbage. Or it could be,
no,
I see the logic in what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Or somewhere in between.
Mm-hmm. And I do, and I see the logic, and that's how I like things to be logically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want to think logically.
Yep.
But then there's a but.
So what's the but?
Well, I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you've gone through this. I'm sure you have, but like, doctors have said it to me many, many times. Well, you're not 20 anymore, and you're not, and you're getting older, and you've had 3 kids, and this is how, this is normal, or this is how aging works. And I mean, I'm only 41. I don't think that's old. I don't think 46 is old.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I agree.
So, right. And so for me, it's just even though I know logically, there's still that buzzing or that chippering in my mind, like, well, but Antonella, like, yeah, you're just like, this is it. And then it goes back to my mom, like, well, you're just like your mom.
Okay, hold on. I've got, so there's a couple different doubts here. First of all, you say, I see the logic that aging doesn't automatically do this. I think you do see that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, certainly if you're talking about pain, 90-year-olds aren't writhing in pain.
No, they're not.
And they would be if it was really true that aging causes pain.
Right.
It's completely illogical to argue otherwise, because it's patently obvious from a logical standpoint, because if that were true, the older people would get, the more pain they would have.
Right.
Right? So you're on board with that. But then you get to, but doctors say you're not 20 anymore, you've had kids. Okay, there's a couple of ways that we can tackle that, but here's one. And what I want you to do is learn to attack it in multiple ways. If you can attack it with logic in multiple ways, the doubt crumbles. So here's one way to attack that one. The doctors say you're not 20 anymore. Now, I say this with a healthy amount of respect for doctors in a certain way. They're very helpful with life and death stuff. Most of them mean very well. A lot of them adhere to science about certain things. And yet, these are the people who are telling us that herniated discs cause back pain, even when their medical journals deny it. How far do we trust these people?
Well, I definitely don't. I'm not going to lie to you.
Okay. So, listen, by undercutting the fact that doctors are always right, which is not true, we know some of the things that they're not right about. And the aging process is right at the heart of that. Mm-hmm. It's not even that I'm just saying, oh, doctors sometimes aren't right. They are specifically wrong about this stuff. So here's a way of thinking about it. We all have been fed this narrative for our whole lives. I mean, I remember hearing about it. I remember I was talking to my brother's brother-in-law. He had just turned 40, and he was like, He was like, my body is just, it's not even remotely the same. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't sound good. I was a lot younger at the time. But now I'm 46. I'm in better shape than he was when he was 30. And I don't mean better shape like necessarily, muscles or whatever like that. But I don't feel any chronic pain ever. And I'm not the only one. And you can do this too because you're a human being. That's the only requirement. Right? So we can, do you see how we're attacking these doubts with logic?
Yeah.
When you ask a question that's a B question though, like, am I just like my mom? Here's my answer to that. If you are just like your mom, it's only in belief system. You can change that belief system. She could even change that belief system. Even if we said she's not going to, which I'm not saying is the case, but if you said that, okay, then she's not going to. It doesn't mean anything about you because mind-body results are all about the individual mind and how they're thinking, which fits with everything we know. Why do some people get better? Because they get their mind in the right headspace or they're given the right information and boom, they get there. It doesn't matter who you are. It only matters if you're a human being and you get the right information.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now let me ask you another question. Do you feel like you've had the right information in the past? Could be partially, could be not at all.
I was going to say, yeah, like maybe partially.
Okay. Let me ask this then. Don't you think this is going to go a lot better when you feel that your knowledge isn't partial?
100%.
So that's what we're working on, right? When we did the emotions column last week, I felt like we took the kind of emotional work you may have been doing before and we condensed it and shaped it. And I'm not saying this to brag. I just think this is the way the system works and it's good. Yeah. Yeah. And it's also what I saw. I was like, this was fantastic. Like, that's how it felt to me. Unfortunately, it doesn't matter how it felt to me. But I do think that my sense was, and please tell me if I'm wrong, that the emotions column, it was like we took that part of mind-body experience and shaped it and polished it until it's, it's not finished yet, but you're way ahead of the game now. Well, we've started to do the same in the doubt column now.
Okay.
You now can see, whoa, there's a lot of doubts in there, yes, but there are things I can do about it. I can turn a B question into an A question. Mm-hmm. I can drill down to the secondary doubt underneath it and the one underneath that until I get to the bottom of it and I suddenly am looking at a statement that it makes me laugh because it's so illogical. Follow it to its dead end. If you follow a doubt to its dead end, it becomes meaningless in a way that you can really feel. Like the idea, does aging actually cause pain?
Right.
You follow it out to its logical conclusion and you start laughing. Right? Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was going to say, what happens in those moments when I just can't be logical or whatever is happening? It's just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
I am
like fear is taken over.
Fear is just taken over. And I'm having strong moments like that where it's like, well, like, this is it. Like, especially if I have to get up to get the kids to school. I struggle in the mornings and it's like, here it is again. Oh my gosh. Like, really, I can't get better. This is how it's going to be. It's been like this for so long. It's just, and that's when
right. So
that doesn't stop.
And you need some real how-tos with that, right? So each column has some of that. And when we get to the action steps, we're going to know more about that. That'll be in the 4th session. But I'll say a little bit about it here just to give you some idea about it. Here is what I do when I'm in a situation like that. I think to myself, okay, here is doubt. Doubt is trying to convince me. It's trying to win the war. I'm not going to let it. I'm going to remind myself. So here's a good way of thinking about it. You're not going to be logical all the time.
No.
But you can always choose to get back to being logical.
Okay.
You can say, this is doubt. Doubt has crept back in.
Okay.
It always it comes in through every door and every window and every crack it can. And I would say I want you to rethink that moment, not as, should I take this seriously? Because it's actually a B question that's just designed by doubt. B questions are meant to be thrown out or turned into A questions.
Okay.
You do not want to entertain them. So instead, you'll say, this is a doubt. I'm not paying attention to that. There is absolutely no reason why anything has changed from the good days I was having. And there's no reason that I'm any different from anyone else. And just because I'm like my mom in certain ways does not mean I'm doomed to this, because this is changeable in everybody. That's what mind-body work is. So you start good self-talk, and you'll get into the practice of it.
Okay.
Catch the doubt, articulate it, drill down, and answer it.
Okay. Yeah.
Take some, and meanwhile, you may need my help along the way.
Yeah.
You might be like, oh, well, okay, this happened. How do I think about this? This is really about you understanding it all backwards and forwards. This, interestingly enough, after last session, this is about you feeling that you're never confused anymore.
Yeah.
I'm almost never confused about mind-body stuff, ever.
Okay.
And if I am, I recognize that as, okay, doubt has crept back in some way. It is trying to confuse me, and that's all it is. So once we expose it as doubt, it's already on the run. It's already starting to lose again.
Okay.
You're going to get more used to this, and we'll talk more about it, but
Yeah, more practice.
What I'm going to do now, because we got to wrap up for today, I'm going to send you what I wrote. It's a bunch of notes. You're going to have to see if you have questions about it, if it made sense, let me know. The second half of it, I highlighted doubts that you put. So here's one. Always have to avoid every toxin, food, or stress. When I read that, I think, okay, is that true, or is that just a worry? It's a worry that's based on understandable experience. You're not being ridiculous to have that worry. But even so, I can guarantee you it's not true, because what's really happening is all of those things, those supposed toxins or maybe actual toxins, food, stress, they are all triggers. They all make you think a symptom is now coming, which makes them come. But if we can get you to be thinking that way about it, and remember, if we weaken one doubt, every doubt gets weaker. This doubt will get weaker too, and then you can start to try it out. It reminds me of when I helped my brother get better from back pain. I didn't even talk to him about this, but 2 weeks later, he wasn't lactose intolerant. I hadn't talked to him about it at all. I just had gotten him thinking, this stuff really is illogical. Suddenly he thought about that, challenged that symptom, and then he wasn't lactose intolerant anymore? Now, what that means is he was never lactose intolerant. It means, but he thought he was, and so his body responded that way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is good work. I'm going to send this stuff to you.
Okay.
But it's a work in progress. I'm teaching you how to use each column. And then you're going to use it until things make more and more and more sense. And, you say, what happens to me when I can't use logic? What you're going to find, and I think you will really like this, it's rarely going to happen eventually. Eventually, you'll be so logical, you'll hear other people talking and think, they sound cuckoo. It's, what is going on here?
I like that.
So we are well on our way, and you did great work here, and I could see the wheels turning. So this is good. You just keep the questions coming. If they're B questions, that's okay. We just need to identify them, switch them to A questions, or maybe even throw them out if you just recognize them as a pointless fear. But keep asking me questions, and I will keep getting answers.
Okay.
Okay?
I like that.
All right, Antonella. So let's be in touch over the course of the week. Let's see how this goes. If you want to dip back and say, okay, I was developing an emotional theme and I want to get to this, I'm here for that too.
Okay.
Next time, though, we're going to get into the power column. And the power column, just to prepare you, it has really two parts to it in terms of the actions that we're going to do. One is we're going to build a core narrative and learn how to use it. And then the other is we're going to learn how to recognize when you're in power or out of power, whether with yourself, others, or even your symptoms, which generally speaking, everybody who comes to me is out of power with their symptoms at the very least.
Right. Yeah.
Generally with themselves. And then we're going to talk about how do you start to return yourself to power in any given situation using these tools. That could happen. I mean, what we did today actually returned you to power. Each time you master a doubt, it returns you to power.
Okay.
So in a way, it is secondarily power column work.
Right.
But it's happening in the doubt column form. All right, Antonella, it was a pleasure spending time with you. I'm excited because we're moving forward with things.
Same. Thanks for giving a
shift. It's my pleasure, and I will see you next week.
Thanks.
Well, this was a session in the doubt column where I can feel that even my own system continues to get honed more and more and more. As you may have seen, we were getting very good at articulating doubts, but we were also getting good at drilling down into them, getting to the next, the secondary level of the doubt. And each time we used logic, the top level doubt kind of fell apart, and then we moved down to something closer to the surface or closer to the specifics of what her doubt was. As we do that, we move down and down and down until the statements become more and more ridiculous, more and more illogical, and you can pick them apart even more quickly. It also jumped out at me, and I think this is an important thing to highlight, that this idea that if you master one doubt, the other doubts start to weaken. So what I was seeing was Antonella making some big steps forward, and I could kind of see it in her eyes. This is working. I know she had her doubts, as we could see. In addition, I started to talk about A questions and B questions, and this is something that I've kind of codified more recently. Very important that you recognize all of your questions are valid, but we need to understand the nature of them. A questions will move you forward. B questions are still good to ask, but they need to be recognized for what they are so we can transform them into A questions or maybe even throw them out altogether. So very good, strong work Antonella did today, and I was very pleased to see it. I'm extremely encouraged about where she's headed. If you haven't already, click subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, hit like if you like what you're hearing, and put your comments below, and we'll get back to you personally.